Welcome, fellow beings of light, to episode 4 of our 2026 Return to One podcast. This is where we really start getting into what this year and beyond it is all about for so many. Those that have been actively on a journey of remembrance and expansion, exploring and integrating pieces across time and space, experiencing moments of awakening and ascension, but getting stuck there, hitting a plateau where you are endlessly repeating the same cycles of inner work because you can't fix what could never be broken. Endlessly experiencing the highs of inner shifts and expansion, only to end up chasing the next one, and then the next, and then the next, because the feeling, it never lasts. Endlessly ascending up into the cosmos, into more and more remembrance, into more and more of who and what you are, only to struggle with embodying it back down here on earth, because it never descends. Endlessly speaking of yourself, feeling yourself, and living your human experience as fragmented. As a being, finding these scattered pieces of yourself, picking and choosing from them, taking and integrating what you want, and never accepting and unifying the entirety of what was always you to begin with. What is you in the present and what will always be you in the end. Why? Because that is the very nature and experience of multidimensional work, and even the ascension and shadow work processes that fall within it. It is only intended to take you so far. It was only ever intended to be a series of triggers that begin bringing you back to yourself, to oneness within, to help you remember. It was only ever intended to be a series of steps that begin leading you back towards your soul's chosen path and purpose, to help you experience the frequency waiting for you to realign with it. It was always intended to lead to the next phase in your journey, the shift from multidimensional work, from uncovering the fragments of your soul scattered by the veils of forgetting, to meta-dimensional work, to the unified and embodied wholeness of your soul. What always was and always will be beyond and higher than all of the pieces, parts, and fragments you perceive. You. Not just hearing and knowing that you are whole, that you are complete, that you have everything you will ever need already within you, but living it, embodying it here on earth in your human body and experience each and every day, because it is you, not scattered fragments that have forgotten themselves. One you, a you that is reclaimed as one within. Now, I am not one to quote the Bible. I am more Eastern religions than I will ever be Western ones, but I am one that can see the overlap, the underlying connections and messages between them all. Think about the story of Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden as the creation of not just the divine masculine and the divine feminine, but the seeding of earth for life to begin on it. Think about the story of Noah and the descent into water of Atlantis and Lemuria to start over when that first wave of existence on Earth didn't go as planned, when it separated further instead of returning to one. Now, think about where I'm about to lead you. Into the book of Revelations, the last story. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Jesus, Yeshua, Sananda, and in turn, each and every one of us, as we are all one, reclaiming and encompassing all knowledge above and below as if it were never forgotten, reclaiming and realigning with all timelines across all dimensions as if they were never separated, reclaiming and securing all roles and purposes as chosen, as if they were never lost, bringing it all together, reclaiming it, unifying and embodying it as one within and then one without, as more and more souls do so, adding to the oversoul of all the reawakened, to Allren. That is meta-dimensionality and meta-dimensional work. The beginning and the end. We start as one above and end as one below. We find our way back to and reclaim what was, always has been, and always will be you. We embody existing at the end and the beginning at the same time as one. And everything in between falls back into alignment with us, with that oneness, as if it was never forgotten, as if it was never separated, as if it was never lost, because it wasn't. It never could be. It was here, right here within us, within our soul. That is here, right here, experiencing Earth as a human right now, all along. Meta-dimensionality, meta-dimensional work. You've probably never heard of it. I never heard of it. Not until it began coming through for me over the last few months through my team and through the Allren Oversoul, the collective of all the reawakened. It's not a new concept or process here on Earth, though. I'm not making it up as I go. It has been around as long as the concept of multi-dimensionality and multi-dimensional work has. It has just been in the background, not hiding from us, but waiting for us. Always accessible to all, but for so long only accessed by those we know of as ascended masters, Mahatmas, Bodhisattvas, however you want to call them. They all made the shift from one to the other, from multidimensional, scattered pieces found through remembrance and ascension, to meta-dimensional oneness within, found through dissension and embodiment. The rest of us, most of us, we weren't ready for it while they were embarking on that journey. Or perhaps the time wasn't right for it yet because they were preparing us for it, becoming leaders and guides. I believe it's a bit of both. And I believe that many of us have begun embarking on that same journey, or at least have begun being prepared for it. We are ready for it. The time is literally now. In 2026, the transition from the fuel of the year of the wood snake into the ignition of the year of the fire horse, and the transition into a new 9-year cycle. The return to year one. The return to one. Two massive transitions happening at the same time. A rare occurrence that we are intended to take advantage of. I have personally begun making this shift in my own journey. I have been stepping into it over the last year, and like many, I wasn't even aware that it was a shift I was making, but I was. All I knew was that all of the multidimensional work, the podcasts, classes, and sessions I was doing were feeling less and less resonant and aligned, less and less like what I was meant to be doing. I reached that plateau that many of you are finding yourself reaching right now. I got stuck. I knew, understood that I was never intended to remain fragmented across space and time, never intended to remain separated from my soul's oneness, never intended to remain lost from my chosen purpose. And all of this multidimensional work, it helped me to see that, to remember that. But once it had, continuing with it was keeping me stuck there, keeping me stuck in the same cycle. I became more and more resistant to all of it, whether I fully realized it or not, to feel more and more like it was hurting me, not helping, creating density, frustration, exhaustion, more and more fragmentation instead of more and more oneness. And as all of that multidimensional work began to fade away, as I began to step away from it, I started shifting into trying to receive something different from within myself, instead of seeking more of what I already had been without, into seeing myself as one, a whole being made of pure and unshakable light, instead of a fragmented one with shadows and scattered pieces. I spent most of the last year not recognizing that shift was unfolding, but I was definitely experiencing it. More and more was opening up, and I was becoming lighter and lighter within myself and within my experiences and my surroundings and even my relationships. And now that I am receiving what that shift was and is, now that I'm being asked to step back into the role I once held above as a soul guide here on earth now, I can see the shift I've been making clearly now. I get it. I get it. And I am ready to begin sharing it, to begin transmitting the frequency of it to others, and to begin guiding others through making the same shift. From the multidimensional work that you are becoming stuck in, becoming resistant to, and into the next phase of your journey, the meta-dimensional work that will bring you back into embodied oneness within. that will bring you back into alignment with your soul's chosen timeline and purpose, that will unlock and allow you to reclaim your unique frequency, your unique blueprint that runs through the core of all of it, of all of you. Take a moment and a few deep breaths to think about where you are at in your own journey, to think about whether you are ready for, whether you are being called into this next phase of it. If you received a no or aren't yet ready to surrender to receiving a yes, that's more than okay. You can stop this recording right here. Come back to it at a later date, or begin seeking out the concept of meta-dimensionality and meta-dimensional work on your own when you feel ready to. If you received a yes, though, if what we have been discussing resonates, stick with me as I think we will walk through the different phases of metadimensional work that I have been receiving. What now serves as the foundation for my individual offerings and for the 6-month Return to One Mentorship I have starting up this week with the spring equinox. Phases of it that I'm feeling like we are going to begin getting into in depth, one by one, as 2026 and this podcast for the year moves forward, because that is part of me stepping up and stepping into embodying my role as a soul guide again, the transmission part of that role. So I am just going to introduce them here, kind of like a first date. That's how I'm seeing it visually, how I'm receiving it, like speed dating. We will get to know each of them a little bit, get a feel for each of them, seeing if they feel right for us before we jump into more with any of them. At the first table, we have remembrance, where our multi-dimensional work and self begins to blend with our meta-dimensional work and self. A gradual and grounding transition, an opening of our rainbow column, our connection and channel between alpha and omega, first and last, beginning and end when it comes to our souls, where our souls began above and where our souls end below. The column containing our unique frequency, our soul's chosen timeline, our soul's chosen purpose, our soul's collected galactic abilities, resources, and more, all received before it ever once stepped foot on Earth. The column that all of our incarnations, timelines, and perceived fragmented pieces swirl around within, seeking realignment with its core, with our core, turning into something that looks a bit like DNA, but I won't get into that here, not yet. It is a column that becomes closed off, the flow of it disconnected from both above and below us, when our soul first incarnates on earth. The veil of forgetting surrounding our soul in its new human form. A veil that gets reinforced with each successive incarnation, ensuring that we start over as much as possible, that we get a blank slate, which allows us the opportunity to approach each perceived fragment of ourself, each bit of remembrance of our soul before first incarnation, and what unfolds with each incarnation from a different perspective. Hopefully, an increasingly aligned perspective that brings us closer and closer back to that core, to the us that always was, always is, and always will be. And as we get closer and closer to that core, the veil of forgetting begins to thin. Our ability to access and receive through our rainbow column, through that channel, becomes more and more open. First, in terms of connection with Earth and our human experience, our human half. And second, our connection with the cosmos and our soul's beginning, our galactic half. It opens up our meta-dimensional return to one journey, meta-dimensional soul reclamation. If you are liking the vibes at this table, if it's feeling resonant, we will be delving more into the rainbow column in our next episode, episode 5, which should be releasing on or around the 20th, the spring equinox. In that episode, we will begin discussing it more. Then we will do a meditation or a journey to initiate and activate the thinning of it for some of you and the expanded thinning of it for others. At the second table, we have release, where we begin to let go of the concept of fragmentation, of our multi-dimensional existence, and begin truly seeing ourselves as one, unifying the multi into the meta, into oneness, a healing and freeing transition, an opening of your conscious and subconscious human mind to your oneness, to your divinity, to your sovereignty, and the freedom that comes from each. A path forward when it comes to the knowledge and remembrance you have collected throughout your multidimensional journey, but have been unable to fully embody because you have been stuck in a cycle and mindset of fragmentation, of being broken and needing to be fixed, of allowing pieces of your soul to be segregated from your light by seeing them as and calling them shadows. You know that you are whole, that you have been, are, and always will be. It is time to let go of the idea that you could have ever been broken into pieces, that you could have ever been fragmented. Because the truth, even when your soul entered the veil of forgetting and began separating into alternate timelines and experiencing incarnation after incarnation, your soul was always one, a core frequency flowing through a single channel that not only holds space for everything that we have perceived as becoming fragmented, but holds it with unconditional love and patience until you remember and realign with that core, with yourself within your rainbow column. You know that at your core, all of you is a being of light, that you have been, are, and always will be light. It is time to let go of the idea that any part of you could be dark, that any part of you should be not just segregated, but relegated to being a shadow. Because the truth, every part of your soul and every experience that it has had in your current incarnation and every incarnation that came before it is what it chose for itself. Whether a trigger or a lesson for your remembrance, every bit of trauma, karma, and wounds experienced, every single contract and block put in your path was chosen ahead of time by your soul, by you, as a blessing, as your light guiding you back to yourself, to your core. At the third table, we have retrieval, where we begin to reconnect with our soul at its origin point, at the beginning, before it ever passed through the veil of forgetting, before it ever set foot in a single incarnation on earth. Embark on a journey with it. Now that the veil of forgetting is thinned and our rainbow column is opening, we have the opportunity to walk with it as it chose its frequency, its timeline, and purpose. To walk with it as it chose the triggers and lessons it would experience through each earth incarnation, so that it would remember who and what it is, that frequency, its core. To walk with it as it collected knowledge, abilities, guides, and more from galactic points across the cosmos on its way to Earth with each new incarnation. Resources to trigger remembrance and to make the most of its chosen purpose and timeline once you realigned with them. To receive all that it chose and all that it collected, so that we can begin allowing it to descend into our human experience, begin embodying it in our human experience. At the fourth table, we have reconciliation, where we begin to allow all our soul chose and collected prior to incarnation, our galactic half, to descend into our current incarnation, our human half, unifying what was, is, and always will be with the human experiences, timelines, and incarnations we have been living while within the veil of forgetting. Removing the separation, the perceived fragmentation, and embarking on a journey of unification. Not collapsing, not integrating, unifying. Taking evolution, human, ascending into galactic through multi-dimensional work, and shifting into involution, galactic descending into human through meta-dimensional work. Bringing our oneness, temporarily forgotten, back into oneness in a way that is neither old, encompassing only our galactic half, nor new, encompassing only our human half, but rather meets in the middle in a way that is more and more representative of and in resonance with our core frequency, which has remained the same all along, both above and below, allowing us to begin understanding the path forward, our chosen purpose as a soul, and the ways our galactic and human half come together in furtherance of that purpose, allowing us to begin exploring and defining what that purpose looks like in our human experience. Whether the doors and potential opened up are brand new, or greater clarity and an expansion upon the work that we have already been doing. At the fifth table, we have realignment, where we bring everything together and begin to reconnect with our core, our unique frequency, the now open channel that flows between and through the center of the galactic half of our soul and the human half of our soul, which also just happens to be our chosen timeline. Another healing and freeing transition, but in a different context, because the two halves of our soul are already vibing together in greater resonance. There is nothing standing in their way, keeping them separate anymore. Nothing left to release. They are communicating, getting to know each other, working together, making plans for the future, right? But this is where we can get ahead of ourselves. Think that we are done. Forget that it isn't just our galactic and human half that were separated by the veil of forgetting. We weren't just separated into two. That during the process of separation of our soul's first descension into a human body, our being was separated into layers, into bodies, almost like our consciousness was stretched out and diluted on our souls and our rainbow columns way down. Our monadic, causal, and spiritual bodies when it comes to our galactic half. Our mental, emotional, and physical bodies when it comes to our human half. Our energetic body that lies between them, bridges them infinitely, despite the veil of forgetting. And look back at table 4, because we just experienced the galactic half of our soul descending to Earth a second time, only this time not to separate into our human half, not to incarnate into a new human body, but to reconnect our two halves, to bring our soul back into oneness. It's almost like we repeated the process, but in reverse. So of course, the layers, the bodies lying along our rainbow column need to be recalibrated and brought back into alignment with each other, into alignment with all these connections and shifts, and into alignment with our core frequency, our balance point, our 0 point, and the timeline chosen by our soul, deviated from upon entering the veil of forgetting, and now ready to be returned to. Finally, at the 6th table, we have reclamation, where we are no longer beginning to do this or that. We have returned. We have arrived. We have landed. We have reclaimed the oneness of our soul. We have reclaimed our soul's blueprint in the form of its chosen purpose, timeline, and frequency. And we have collected chosen resources and done so much more. And now what? Now it is time that we begin living, embodying all that we have reclaimed, moving forward as a whole, perfect and divine being of light and love, unconditional towards self and others. moving forward in a consistent 0 point state, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Unshakable. Moving forward in a consistent state of truth that emanates from your core. Undistorted. Moving forward using our full knowledge and abilities to fulfill our purpose. Unstoppable. And moving forward into opening up access to and receiving from and sharing with the oversoul that is all of the reawakened. Allren. All who have undergone this meta-dimensional journey in one form or another, from ascended masters, Mahatmas, Bodhisattvas, to you and an increasing number of souls around you. Unlimited. That last one, it is the beginning of a whole nother level in your oneness journey. One where you return to oneness without. Oneness with the galactic monad your soul separated from. With all within the oversoul of the reawakened. Claiming your seat at an even bigger table within it. With the collective of beings of light above, below, and increasingly united together. And, of course, with Source, not just within you, but in the world around you. That will be level 2 of our Return to One podcast and mentorship, which I'm kind of getting will begin in 2027 when we shift from the year of one of this new 9-year cycle into year 2, from within to without. But in the meantime, we are going to be embarking on level 1 of our Return to One podcast and mentorship throughout this year, delving into your meta-dimensional soul reclamation, your return to oneness within. The journey that we walked through together today, those 6 tables we speed dated through and got to know. The journey that I have been called to create and serve as a guide for, to transmit through this podcast as we continue throughout the year, to work with souls one-on-one through individual offerings that work with the 2nd and 3rd tables we got to know today. Maybe one more of them. To work with souls one-on-one through a 6-month mentorship that covers all 6 phases, all 6 of the tables we got to know. Both are linked to within the description, and our Return to One mentorship program is officially open for enrollment as we approach the spring equinox this week. But it will only be available to 4 souls at a time because it is a one-on-one experience, a shared energetic and consciousness connection, a unique journey for each soul embarking on it with me over the course of 6 months, through one-on-one sessions, support recordings, journaling, and so much more. Okay, fellow beings of light, I'm going to wrap this episode up by calling it in. The time is now. Your time for returning to oneness within is now. Join me for the transmission that will flow through this podcast moving forward. If any of this resonates with you, and if you feel called, join me one-on-one for a single session or for 6 months through our mentorship. I'm looking forward to both, and I am looking forward to how the rest of 2026 unfolds for myself and for all of us. I hope you are too.